All right, Sunday morning. This is about the fourth or fifth video we've done for Sunday morning. One of the questions this week is more a general theological question, maybe not as tied to 1 Thessalonians, but a good question, which is, if Jesus selects Judas Iscariot and he is predetermined to reject Jesus, how is it that he is also held culpable for his sin? And how does this principle of God's election versus the character of the individual? Here's the thing that is predetermined is that God would select someone who would ultimately reject Jesus Christ and betray him. It's not that there weren't sufficient people on the planet who were sufficiently evil enough to do this. Judas is not a good guy that God tags to be evil. Judas is a rascal from the beginning. He is a maniacal, conniving, underhanded person. We know this because remember when someone came and anointed Jesus' feet with a high-priced perfume that Judas said, hey, this perfume should have been sold and given to the poor. John's gospel tells us it's not that Judas was concerned about the poor, but he had been pilfering from the fund. In other words, Judas had his hand on the money bags and been taking money out of it. So he was greedy. He was using Jesus for greed and power. Jesus knew this about Judas beforehand. It wasn't that God made him greedy. He was already that way. The predetermined thing is that God predetermined to pick a greedy, conniving, underhanded person and make him a very close friend to Jesus and put him in a position of power over money and things like that. So the predetermining here is not God's election of a good guy to be evil. The predetermining is electing someone who was already a scoundrel and yet electing that person to be close to his own son in his public ministry, so that in the end, Jesus would be betrayed by one of his closest friends in fulfillment of Scripture. So I don't think God elects him to be a bad guy. I think God elects him to be one of the disciples of Jesus. He's a sorry guy already all on his own. All right, so second thing is this. Someone asked about local churches hosting conceal and carry handgun classes, and in light of 1 Thessalonians, I think they mean 5:22, which says it says avoid all forms or abstain from all forms of evil. In this regard, Matthew Road, we probably will never host a class like that. What we have at Matthew Road is we have several peace officers within our congregation already. These are individuals who, by occupation, already are not only licensed to carry, but or this is what they do. They are trained to be police officers or federal agents, and we have them take turns on our campus to just make sure that it's a safe place. We have a security team in place. So I don't think there's any form of evil to say that police officers who are also members of our church, or peace officers who are also members of our church, keeping a watchful eye over the church is a bad idea. In fact, I think most of us, if we knew a police officer was at a restaurant or Walmart while we're there, we'd probably feel a little safer about that. And this is true about Matthew Road. We don't make a big deal out of it, but we do take some security measures in that regard. That being said, I can understand how people in a gun-sensitive environment would be not as comfortable maybe hosting, conceal, and carry licenses. So I don't really have necessarily commentary on that, because there's some people think it's a great idea, some people don't think it's a good idea. Matthew Road probably would never do something like that, but it's easy for me to say that primarily because we have so many good peace officers already within the congregation that we already have some coverage in that regard, and so we're maybe in a unique situation there. But anyway, I understand the question. I think that's appropriate to be sensitive about those kinds of things, and so I appreciate that. And on our end, we just try to do it using people who are already authorized by the government to be involved in the safety of the public. So that's been our approach to it. I appreciate that question, and if there's more clarity on that is needed, or you want to ask additional question on that, please do text in, and I'll try to clarify beyond that. Or if I missed the verse that you're referring to, because it was a little hard to tell for sure exactly which verse, I'd love to clarify it further. All right, those were the two questions from Sunday morning. I hope you guys have a great week. We'll see you this Mother's Day.